don't have a gavel, but this really works. Look at that. It really works. Who needs a gavel anymore? Good afternoon, everyone. Happy April. I am calling to order the Nashville MTA Board meeting and welcome everyone. First on our agenda will be the roll call. Jessica Dalpin.
Present.
Ron Thompson.
Present.
And I know Catherine Hayes is on her way, so she should be here shortly, but we'll get going. And so with that, I think we have enough for a quorum. So if I could have a motion for approval of the February 27th, 2025 MTA Board minutes.
Motion.
Second.
There's a motion and there's a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, I will call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Great, we do have minutes. Next, I'm going to change the agenda around just a little bit right now, and I'm going to bring my chair's report up to here, where we have a resolution recognizing the contributions of our former board member, Janet Miller. You know, there are certain times as board chair that I get some pretty incredible honors to bestow, and this to me today is one of those honors. But I'll let y'all join in a little bit in the celebration, but I get to run this one, so thank you very much. Janet, maybe you can come forward. And I sort of feel a little speechless about this because Janet has been just such an incredible board member to MTA. Not only has she been an incredible board member to MTA, she's been an incredible board member to so many other boards across our city. And I've been fortunate to serve with her on other boards as well. And she also is such a champion of Nashville. Born and raised Nashville, raised in our Nashville public education system and Nashville public schools, and is always a champion. But she's a champion for everybody all the time. I think she sleeps, eats, breathes Nashville. And although she is well noted across this country for all the work that she has done with economic development, growing our city to what it is, and always making certain our city is healthy in terms of our culture as we move and grow. And I just feel extremely lucky that for the past 10 years that we had the opportunity to have her on this board shepherding us through growth and change and just so much about making MTA WeGo grow into what it is. And so much of that is because of your leadership, Janet. And I have a resolution which makes me have to read something. So I'm excited to present this resolution, and I'm gonna stand. Can you all still hear, or do you need me to sit for the mic to get it right? Okay. And I'll read it. The resolution honoring the contributions of former MTA board member Janet Miller. Whereas Janet Miller was originally appointed to the MTA board in December 2014 by then Mayor Carl F. Dean, filling the unexpired term of current State Senator Jeff Yarbrough. And whereas Ms. Miller was subsequently reappointed to the board by Mayor David Briley in June of 2019 and Mayor Freddie O'Connell in June 2024. And whereas during her service, Mrs. Miller provided outstanding guidance and inspiration to the members and staff of the authority. And whereas her leadership as chair of the New Initiatives and Community Engagement Committee, NICE, led to significant improvements with respect to the authority's efforts, particularly as related to the development of new and enhanced services and improved facilities for our customers, as well as her role as vice chair has been invaluable. Whereas in addition to her board leadership, Ms. Miller has been a constant advocate for improved public transportation and her many other roles in community leadership throughout the greater Nashville region. And whereas she is universally respected throughout the greater Nashville community and beyond. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Directors of the Metropolitan Transit Authority of Nashville and Davidson County that Ms. Janet Miller be formally recognized and honored by the Board of Directors and the organization for her numerous contributions advocating for the improvement of public transportation. And be it further resolved that Ms. Janet Miller, in recognition of her outstanding service as a board member, enjoys free rides and privileges for your lifetime.
Oh, wow. Well, I'm going to go for some rides. Thank you. Free rides. Oh, my gosh, look at that. You did good. Thank you. So sweet. I love you guys.
And I think I need a motion for approval. If I can have a motion for approval of the resolution?
So motion?
Second.
Any further discussion? You rock.
Thank you. I'm so excited.
I just,
All in favor? Aye. Aye. The motion carries.
Look at these. Purple flowers, yay.
And we are going to take, and
There's
Catherine's here,
Catherine.
yes.
Yay. Oh my God, they're so beautiful, you all. Thank
And so we're just going to take a little break, and we're going to take some pictures with Janet and give her a couple of mementos for her tenure here on the board. So you all can be seated, and so nice of you to celebrate, Janet, this way. Thank you all.
so much.
Where do you want us to take
Yay.
pictures? A reminder for public comments, you have 2 minutes, and we have a a beeper that goes off now. So make certain and then when you hear the beeper, please know that your time has ended. Okay, first I have Peter O'Connor. Hi.
I was wondering why I was trying to find what building was missing. Okay. Get down, that's you guys here again. Still want to mention about the bus shelters in front of the building where I live at on Lebanon Pike, right by the Metro Water Department. There's a little intersection, so but we need shelters on both sides because the building where I'm at, is a senior apartment dwelling, and some of the seniors do use those buses, and there's many times where they could use the shelter, especially with benches, and be able to get out of the elements somewhat when it's raining and so on while they're waiting for the bus. So we're definitely looking forward to that. Also, a friend of mine was mentioning to this, I'm sure he'll probably mention it also, out near Donaldson Station, it'd be nice to see some little bit of rerouting instead of going over the bridge into Donaldson Brown Station and vice versa, coming the other way. You have, I forget the name of those streets, but you got the library down there, and you got a bunch of businesses and so on, where it would make it easier for people to be able to go straight through there from Donaldson Station to be able to get in there and have easier access to those businesses. Otherwise, they've got to do a distant walk to get to them from the station. Also, MCC downtown, I'm assuming that we have new security there. There's still a bunch of times where I see people smoking, and people like myself and others that have COPD, having breathing problems, so nobody ever says anything to them. All right, thank you.
We'll hear more about that. So thank you so much. Next is Richard, is it Goyer? Diner. Thank you. I'm sorry for mispronouncing.
Hello.
Hello.
Yes, same as Peter, I live on Route 6. Well, we talk about there's an overpass just before Donaldson Pike that goes into Donaldson Station. Well, right next to that overpass that runs parallel is a road that goes underneath it. There's a Dollar Tree, there's a couple restaurants, and then there's the library at the end of that. And then you could go into Donaldson Station and it's the same thing. And then there's the bus shelters in front of our buildings. But there's one on the corner of Briley Parkway and Lebanon Pike, coming off the exit ramp. Nobody ever uses it. A guy in the bus that worked for WeGo one day told me there's got to be 50 people that gets on a bus per day for there to be a shelter. I said, I've never seen nobody get on that one in 10 years, and it's there. He said, there's got to be 50 people per day to get on for their shelter to be out front, to be put up. That's a little strange. And then another thing is the cleanliness of the bus. The one coming here, I put my hand on the back of the thing, all kinds of garbage on the back of the seat on the buses. They're nasty, they're dirty, and then MT or WeGo wants people to start riding the bus. There's a lot that got to be done before that's done. Cleanliness is one of them. The downtown terminal and the buses need to be cleaned a lot better. It's nasty down there. It's nasty on the buses. Thank you.
Thank you. The next public comment is Darius Knight.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Looks like Miss Miller saved me again. So I'm late today because I was bypassed by two buses on the Route 23 today. So one of the buses, as I was on the phone with customer service, and the rep was like, wait a minute, so there's a bus there? And I'm like, yeah. The driver continues on. So the agent had to put in 2 complaints about the operators. So I say this because last night I was on the phone with customer service. There was an issue with 2 new operators on the Route 56 that were running behind, and they're still adjusting to the work that they now do. So it's going to take them a bit of time to adjust to that, but you can't sit in one stop, to pick up 1 or 2 people and wait till they pay. There's other people that have to get to where they need to go. I'll say this in simple. I've been saying that there's some issues in operations, and I know that operations has been working on quite a bit of those issues, and they work on one issue, and then here's another issue. I'm starting to think that many of your staff in operations are not comprehending leadership, and they're ignoring what's being told to them. But there's an issue with communication with our operators. I also believe that this agency needs to get either the customer service director or some of her staff to train our bus operators how to communicate. And then I will say this, in terms of safety, it was a good mark that, the first day of service or the first week that the new security company was on point. I'd never seen that at Central. And I actually contacted the company to thank them for their hard efforts. But 2 Mondays ago, I was assaulted at Central, trying to protect a 67-year-old man. Let's make sure that every time you have somebody that creates a problem at Central, that you all prosecute. And please ask your supervision and the officers to ask the person that is assaulted to prosecute, because that's the only way we're actually going to be able to solve this problem. Because I really want to say this important. I know my time is up. But we can't expect this agency to be Superman. Y'all can't do every single thing. And with that being said, if the customers don't report the issue to the agency and to Metro PD, how can we expect y'all to make the services safer?
Thank you, Mr. Knight. Are there any other public comments? Anyone else wishing to make a public comment? Hearing no request, that will close the public comment section of our agenda today. If I might take a moment before we go into our information only item section and introduce one of our new team members. We're very, very, very excited to introduce Captain Brian Williams. And Captain, welcome to your first MTA board meeting, and we're so happy to have you here. Captain Williams is the transit liaison for Metro Nashville Police Department. In February, this board took several actions with respect to enhance security operations on our transit system. During the same week, Mayor Freddie O'Connell and Chief of Police John Drake announced the appointment of Metro Nashville Police Department's first ever transit liaison. And there is a lot of responsibility that comes with being the first. But I think our Captain Williams is up for it. Captain Brian Williams. Ultimately, Captain Williams will be charged with leading Nashville's first ever transit police unit, focused specifically on the safety and security of WeGo public transit patrons and customers. Captain Williams has hit the ground running, meeting with our staff, touring our facilities, and becoming familiar with our operations. Today, again, it is my pleasure and my honor to introduce the MTA board to Captain Brian Williams of Metro Nashville Police Department. Captain, do you mind coming forward, and maybe you could give a couple to the mic and give us a couple of comments about yourself and tell us exactly how happy you are to be with us. No pressure.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, Board. Thank you for having me today, and guests, good to see everybody. It is an honor to be appointed to this position by Chief Drake. I will say, after being here for a few minutes and being the first ever, my goal is to earn one of those bus stops with my name on it.
That's good to know. We're going to have you for a long time.
I've been in law enforcement 20 years, and I will say that it is truly an honor to be able to, and unique situation to have the opportunity to build something from the ground up. In law enforcement, a lot of times things are already in process and developing. So this is truly a unique opportunity, and I'm super grateful. What we've been doing so far is establishing really good lines of communication. And as we've talked quite a bit about this, we've always been there for WeGo, but having someone like myself in-house, part of the team, I think it's already seeing some fruit from that development. In many ways, I feel like I'm joining the next national championship team here with WeGo. Go Buckeyes! I'm sorry. Don't. I married a Buckeye, y'all. So
I have a son that is a Buckeye. He would like you very much.
Well,
although I'm gonna go bluer.
I will wrap up by saying what you will see at some point in the near future is a full division of police officers that will work hand in hand with Archangel Security, the new security contractor, WeGo management and the operators, the entire team. And so, again, I'm super thankful. Thank you all for having me today, and I'm very excited about this chapter in my career. Thank you.
Do any board members have any questions? Okay. Well, welcome, and we're certainly happy to have you here. It's great. You know, safety has always been our paramount concern, and we continue as an agency to work towards that every day. And we are very appreciative of you and your team being here with us, so thank you. And we look forward to just a long relationship so you can get one of those signs. Okay, next on the agenda is our information-only items. We have 3 items in information only. I ask any board member, would you like any of those items pulled out for discussion? Hearing no request to pull those out, I would just remind all of our board members to continue to read that information. If you do have questions after today, reach out to the staff member who has authored that report. Next on the agenda, our consent agenda item. We have 2 items on the consent agenda: the approval for computer server storage, equipment, software, and related services, and also the state WeGo Ride contract renewal. I would ask, would any of the board members like either of those 2 items pulled out for discussion? If not, I would ask for a motion for approval of the consent agenda.
Motion to approve?
I have a motion to approve,
Second.
and I have a second. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, I just want to say I'm glad to see that we've negotiated the state WeGo Ride again. That includes van pooling services, so congratulations on that. That's all I wanted to say.
Awesome, thank you. Any other comments, questions? Hearing none, then I will call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, the motion carries. The consent agenda is approved. Next, Ms. Doppin, I'm going to turn it over to you for the Operations and Finance Committee.
Let's go. Thank you, Madam Chair. We are ready to blow through this agenda. Got a little help over here. So first up is Carl Rokos, Director of Maintenance with our Vehicle Maintenance Audit. Right? We know that we're expanding, so expansion means maintenance. Carl, I'm going to hand it over to you.
All righty. Madam Chair, members of the board, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm here today to discuss the vehicle fleet maintenance audit. The annual audit is something that's done every year with TRC, that's Transit Resource Center. They conduct that every year, and it's been done every year since 2015. They come in and help ensure that our programs in line with safe, reliable, and consistent equipment for the customers of the system. How do I forward this? All right, so as an overview, our fleet is made up of over 330 vehicles. These vehicles serve our fixed route system in the form of 40 and 60-foot buses, our access ride system, utilizes cutaway vans and support services utilizing non-revenue vehicles such as Ford Escapes and pickup trucks. Since 2015, WEGO has engaged TRC to conduct the independent fleet maintenance audit of the revenue buses in and conducts a full inspection, records the defects that they find, and in addition, TRC reviews the maintenance records and the fluid sampling program. So what do we learn? This slide represents a trend analysis between A and B defects. An A defect is something that would render the vehicle out of service, such as an oil leak or a bad wiper blade or headlight out. And B defects are represented in the purple column. And that's something that could, it's not really an out of service defect. It can be deferred to another time for repair. Now you notice an uptick in 2023. That was due to an aged fleet, and during the pandemic, there were supply chain issues, and there were disruptions resulting from the pandemic, which we have started to normalize over the past year. And in addition to that, during the pandemic, we couldn't get training because trainers weren't allowed to travel. Vendors wouldn't travel to perform training. So you'll see going down in 2024, we started receiving cutaways. The B defects went down. We in-serviced over 70 vehicles, and that meant we took 70 vehicles out of service. And you'll notice on the next slide that there's a little uptick when those vehicles were delivered. That said, with older vehicles and us bringing vehicles in, we did see a decrease in B defects in 2024. And, like I said before, the start of the replacement of the cutaways, we started to see them to be done better. We should continue to see this downward trend as we continue to have a healthy acquisition plan with our fleet replacements. Another note on the findings, were higher than normal amount of defects were found regarding the force required to open a window. And in case in emergency, the windows were too hard to push open, we acquired a push-pull gauge to ensure that doesn't happen again. And we utilized that. We campaigned the fleet, and you should see that go down next year. Obviously, minimizing A defects is our highest priority. Beyond safety, these defects have the highest likelihood of compromising the longevity of the bus and resulting in expensive repairs. Overall, total defects decreased from 12.6 defects per bus in 2023 to 10.5 defects in 2024. That's trending in the right direction. Our long-term goal is to keep A defects below 1 per bus and to reduce B defects below 7.5 per bus. Ultimately, our aspirational goal is below 5. But I'll touch on that a little later in this presentation. So next slide. Here's another view of the trends. Again, you'll note that the cutaways are on the downward trend. This chart reflects findings from the annual audit in terms of defects per bus type. Okay. Let me introduce another visual that demonstrates how vehicle availability serves operations reliability for our customers. You'll note that, again, an uptick in early 2024. That was due to the new vehicles being delivered and the old vehicles being retired. This report illustrates another factor related to our supply chain issues over the last several years. While we welcome the delivery of new vehicles and the retirement of the old, this process entails an extensive amount of work by our maintenance staff to commission new fleet and prepare our old fleet for disposal. As examples, we need to remove fare collection equipment from old buses and install a new. And we also have to pull that stuff out of the old buses when they're retired. And We have to do the vendor has to do acceptance inspections of the bus, and our crew has to do inspection, acceptance before we can accept them completely. Over the course of the past year, we had to onboard over 70 vehicles in a short amount of time. In our current acquisition plan, we plan to come to the board each year with a set number of cutaway buses as well as fixed route buses, both 40 and 60-foot buses. This allows our resources to continue with reliable maintenance, and while also onboarding and retiring old vehicles. In a typical month, we schedule 50,000 plus trips. A loss percentage of 0.1% would equate to one lost trip for every 1,000 on the schedule. Our goal is 0.8 of that. So during this past year, when the vehicle commissioning and decommissioning process was at its peak, we topped out at 0.25%, or loss of 2.5 trips for every 1,000 on the schedule. Next slide. So despite the challenges we faced, we accomplished a great deal this year. And that will set us up for future success. These accomplishments, as we develop out additional programs, technology tools, and assistance from our partners such as OEMs, internal and external stakeholders. We conducted a skills gap analysis to identify critical areas in training and development opportunities for technicians, and piloting technology solutions using artificial intelligence to monitor emission systems. That's currently ongoing, and we have established an incentive program for our technicians to seek development opportunities with the Automotive Service Excellence certifications. This demonstrates a strong knowledge of the systems they are working on. We currently have about 20% of our staff that's ASE certified, and with some working towards master certification in the transit bus series. In 2023, we had 0 participation in the program. And we thank the union partners, local ATU 1235, in partnering and continued partnership with not only that, but with the apprenticeship program as well. Next slide. So what's next? What we want to have is a healthy plan regarding our fleet replacement schedule. Having a healthy age spread across our fleet, our staff can continue to focus on preventive maintenance rather than reactive maintenance. Staffing levels is a challenge, not only locally, but nationally. Working with our training department, our union partners, to continue to enhance our apprenticeship program, continue to yield positive return on investment. Continuing to focus will help us build future technicians for our technology, for our agency, as we continue to grow. We are working with manufacturers such as Gillig, New Flyer, and original equipment manufacturers to provide direct training to technicians and technical trainers. Finally, we are seeking additional technology resources to assist in better parts management process, as well as predictive maintenance. This focus will provide better tools for reporting, allowing for better decision-making, accountability within the department, and Hannah will be speaking to you on this regarding this critical area that will assist the fleet maintenance program for years to come. Do you have any questions?
Thank you so much, Carl. That was great. I think one lost trip per 1,000 or so. I mean, it seems like almost an acceptable number, although I don't know where we fall in terms of other comparable systems. But
you could look at peers we have and get back to you on that.
Okay. I love the idea of piloting that artificial intelligence to help find and fix exhaust issues, before or as they're happening. And I love that the ASE certifications and apprenticeships are working. I'll say this, after that report, we are scrappy and seem successful under less than ideal circumstances, given we're coming out of the COVID-19 backorder and issues that you highlighted in that report. So I look forward to seeing what these plans and the new enterprise management system and more, cash flow, obviously, to be able to replace aging vehicles and aging fleets before they're giving us those A and B issues. We can only go up from here. Does anyone else have any comments?
I do have one question about the AI. What does the AI do, and how did you engage with it or make the decision to engage with it?
What the AI does is it monitors the mission systems through a module that's on the bus, and there's a remote team of technicians that monitor that data. And when they start seeing that data anomaly, they will contact us, and then we'll do a work repair plan to have the bus fixed before it actually breaks down.
So prior to engaging with AI, one of our mechanics or someone else in your area would monitor it? Okay.
Exactly.
Thank you.
I did have a question. Is monitoring or at least scoring our mechanic certification, is that part of the audit?
No.
It's not? Okay.
You might want to expand on the skill gaps assessment, though, because that was really targeted at the...
Yeah, they EDSI, which is Educational Data Systems Incorporated, there's a consultant that came in and did a skills gap assessment of the vehicle maintenance program. And what they discovered was, several areas where we lacked or could get better at in training. And that was electrical, engine. That was the main focus of where we really need to put our attention. And in turn, we're going to ramp up and try to provide that training to the mechanics.
Thank you for that. This was a discussion item, correct?
Pardon?
Yep. Thank you so much.
I did have one more.
One more question? Okay.
Is that something we can ask for to kind of see where our certifications are, so we know year over year where we're at in relationship to the audit?
We can look into that. I'm not sure. I'll have to look at other transit agencies. I know that there are, last check, there were about 300 master transit certified technicians in the nation, and we have 2 of them.
If I can, the SAE certifications apply to individuals in different areas like electrical or air systems or what have you. The EDSI assessments of the overall workforce to see that, where we need to identify training needs. We've reported to you previously on the apprenticeship program, which is geared toward our coming up technicians. So a lot of the focus, future oriented, is also our in-service training. And that includes some upcoming, over the next couple of years, major modifications to our maintenance training facilities. Last year we were successful in getting a state grant to do that. We're looking at partnering with the statewide Maintenance Training Alliance to make that a regional application. So still very much a work in progress.
Andy, did you have something else you wanted to add in?
He stole my thunder a little bit, but I think overall there's a number of efforts that we're working towards is enhancing the apprenticeship program, and Steve kind of hit on that. We have a lot of good upfront onboarding training for the apprentices and folks that are kind of coming in new to the trade. And so the skills gap is really identifying some enhanced efforts that we can continue to focus on. We have great technicians, but technologies are ever changing, and so we need to make sure that our training programs continue to change with that ever changing technology. And so that was one of the key takeaways from the skills gap analysis is things are changing. We need to continue to change with it.
Thank you, Andy. I really appreciate that. Anyone else for Carl? All right. Thanks, Carl.
Thank you all.
Hold on to your hats. We're going to talk about enterprise asset management now. We've got some action headed our way. Up next is Hannah Schaefer, and she's going to walk us through the enterprise asset management, and then she has an ask at the end of this.
That's correct.
Take it away.
Yes. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, fellow board members. Today I'm presenting WEGO's recommendation for the implementation of a new enterprise asset management or EAM system. First, though, I'd like to introduce you to Kevin Green and Robert Cooney from eVision Partners, if you guys wouldn't mind standing up. They've been a really critical part in guiding us to this point. As our team of consultants, they specialize in organizational change management as it relates to business processes, training, and systems integrations. So we've invited them here today as a resource, but also to celebrate this critical milestone in our collaborative work. Thank you guys for being here today. So building off what Carl just presented on the maintenance audit, investing in a critical review of our current asset management practices satisfies one of the key areas for improvement that was identified in the agency's transit asset management plan to take a look at our overall maintenance program. Our current system has been in place since 1990. So in other words, it's a bit outdated and unfit for supporting our growing operational needs. A new system will be a strategic investment to improve efficiency, reduce costs, and support better service delivery. There's a number of critical limitations with the current system that got us here. One, it doesn't integrate with other systems such as finance and dispatch, which requires multiple and redundant data entry into disparate systems. Second, there's no mobile access for technicians, meaning we're still relying on paper forms in the field, which leads to a lack of transparency and limited information sharing. Third, reporting is slow and manual, delaying decision-making and impacting the ability to plan effectively. So knowing the status quo would not suffice for our current needs, let alone the anticipated future growth. In April 2023, we partnered with eVision to complete a full evaluation of our asset management practices. We leveraged their expertise in this part of our industry, and the analysis looked at future growth, technology options, and operational needs, which resulted in several options to consider, with the eventual recommendation to invest in a new EAM system that could support both current and future expansion. The new system will be a significant upgrade across multiple functions. It will include modern tools for asset tracking, maintenance scheduling, inventory and warranty management. It will also allow real-time data collection and integrate with other enterprise systems, which will translate into better insights, fewer errors, and a more connected operation overall. So to elaborate, the anticipated benefits are both operational and financial. A more modern and robust solution will reduce labor overtime and lower repair and service costs by improving how we schedule and track maintenance. Better data collection methods will help us make smarter decisions about repairing or replacing parts. And ultimately, these benefits are expected to translate into better service reliability and customer satisfaction by reducing vehicle downtime. We know it's not the ultimate answer to every known issue, but a system upgrade is integral in being better informed and better equipped to manage a growing fleet. Staff will develop KPIs to track the system's performance, including reduction in vehicle downtime, reduced road calls, and reduced missed trips due to vehicle availability. So we released the request for proposals in June of 2024. We promoted on several platforms. We received 4 proposals, one of which was deemed unresponsive because they did not follow the RFP guidelines to show a reasonable effort to meet the baseline DBE requirements. The 3 qualified proposals came from Atom AI, Interlock, and Trapeze Software Group. So the RFP evaluation committee consisted of 8 members representing maintenance, procurement, parts, and operations to make sure that we were covering all bases in our evaluation. It included a 2-phase approach. First, a technical review of the written proposals, and then second, a software demonstration where we invited the proposers on site for a full day to show us how their system worked. Trapeze scored the highest across all categories, including system alignment, team qualifications, and the quality of their demonstration. They stood out for a few reasons, including the peer reviews from our investigation period, as they specialize in transit solutions, so their system really is tailored to our industry's unique challenges. Another key point with their proposal, due to the existing configuration of our systems in place, the integrations will be more streamlined, reducing project timeline and costs. After the best and final offer, the implementation costs will be $3.6 million and anticipated to be completed about 2 years after notice to proceed. Funding will come from federal, state, and local capital sources for the implementation activities, with ongoing maintenance costs built into the annual operating budget for the remainder of the contract, totaling just under $6 million. The proposed contract is 5 years with 5 optional 1-year renewals. So to summarize, the staff has spent the last 2 years preparing and planning for this milestone and delivering better service to our customers through improved maintenance practices. The assets and infrastructure team has been building out processes in preparation for the new system and identifying areas for improvements prior to the transition. The next 2 years will be a collaborative effort with departments from Myatt to Nestor, guided by the industry expertise of the eVision team and Trapeze Software Group. We're now recommending the board authorize the CEO to enter into a contract with Trapeze Software Group pending final contract negotiations for implementation and ongoing maintenance for a total amount of $10,275,000, which includes a 10% contingency. This investment will significantly improve WEGO's efficiency, reduce long-term costs, and enhance our ability to deliver reliable service to our customers. So with that, I will welcome any questions.
Thank you, Hannah. Does anyone have questions for Hannah?
I had a couple, and I think you answered one. So I thought I heard you say Trapeze is specific to transit services? And were any of the other bidders specific to transit services?
No, not directly. Interlock Solutions does have several transit customers, but their base is not specific to the transit industry. So they're more kind of industrial. Asset management is their primary focus, but they do have transit components built into their system, just a little bit more configuration required to fit our industry's needs.
Okay. And then the 2 line items, implementation services and then third-party subscription services, the $5 million estimate from Trapeze, does that guarantee the third-party subscription price, or is the contingency supposed to take into account that those may fluctuate over the 5-year period?
Good question. The contingency is, it is built in for the entire contract amount, but the amount that they built in for the software subscriptions is within the best and final offer. So that contingency is more relevant to the implementation cost pending. There's some unknown risk when you go into a software implementation such as this. So especially when you're working with integrations for third-party systems, there are some unknown risk in there. So the 10% contingency is intended to account for that.
Okay. And then the 18 to 24 month timeline, if we vote yes, is that like today is the start of that, or when does that kick off?
So we're still in the midst of final contract negotiations. So I believe we are projecting our timeline to begin July 1, just as kind of an estimate, to get all of our team and resources in place and the project plan finalized before the notice to proceed. So
okay. And then how much joy will there be when we update from a system?
who should I ask?
I know. I feel like we should. I took a moment to think about where I was in 1990, and which I won't say because then you know how old I was. But that's so well done. Very interesting. I think it is sort of excellent that we are moving from the 90s.
Correct,
to
yeah.
2024 and 2025. So well done. Thank you for answering my
While
question.
still using floppy disks.
However, some people say the 90s had great music. I don't know. You like the 90s. I had my first child in the 90s, so.
Some great music.
1990 to be exact. We were doing things, we were emerging, weren't we all? We got way off track. Just one question about the contract. I assume that once the contract is complete, you'll have our general counsel review that contract, correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Great questions. Oh,
One
Ron?
question. Does this include any equipment upgrades or new equipment to be purchased?
That is a good question. I do know that part of the project is to have mobile devices, so that was included within the request for proposals was equipment, any needed equipment to successfully run the solution. So mostly pertaining to the field mechanics and their devices.
And so if there is additional cost for new equipment, will that additional contingency that we have be sufficient, or do we need to bring it back to the board to identify what additional costs may come?
Some of the core hardware is kind of baked into our regular IT purchases, similar to what's on the consent agenda item for things like servers, switches. So I think what Hannah's talking about are actually putting technology in the hands of the technicians instead of them having to kind of shuffle the paper back and forth.
Correct.
And that's part of this actual acquisition.
All right. Thank you, Hannah. I think at this point, the Operations and Finance Committee is ready to make a motion for to approve the staff recommendation of MA-25-014 on the Enterprise Asset Management System contract award.
Okay, we have a motion.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Yeah, if we are approaching the contingency early into assessing the equipment needs that we are, will that come back to the board so we can discuss?
Any change that would go above the ceiling amount would have to come back to the board.
Yeah.
Okay. Any more discussion? Hearing no further discussion, I will call for the vote. All those in favor of approving the Enterprise Asset Management EAM System Contract Award, say aye.
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 All right. Great. Thank you so much. Time to celebrate.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Finally coming out of the 90s. Whew. I'm going to shed a tear over that Hotmail account. All right, now, Amanda, it's your turn. You got to bring us home with the reserve fund policy.
We'll talk about 2025, right?
Yes.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the board. So we have introduced this concept to you several times, but I'll give you kind of a high-level notes overview of what we're talking about today. The MTA today currently does not have a reserve fund, and that is something that has been used by other peer agencies to help weather unanticipated reductions in revenue or increases in costs. It's really a great best practice in financial planning for agencies. And luckily now the Nashville's voter-approved Choose How You Move program actually included that as one of its major first-year expenditures. Revenues began collection in February of this year for the half-penny sales tax, which will be funding this initiative. And I will say we already have received authorization through the supplemental for 2024-25 for $36,465,000 for the reserve fund, and we are waiting to draw those funds until we have a board-approved policy. So that's what we're coming to you today on, which is an exciting milestone for the agency. We're also, so you know, looking to request and have requested $10,735,000 as part of the 26 budget request, which is making its way through the process over the next few months. And that will give us a total estimated reserve fund at the beginning of next fiscal year of $47,200,000. So that reserve fund, for us to be able to create the fund and use the fund, we need a board-approved policy to make sure that we're using those funds based on what the board would like to see. So in your packet on page 27 and 28, you'll see a draft of this reserve fund policy. We did share that with you at our last meeting in February. There has been one change to it, and you can see that on the top of page 28. and I'll read it. That's the one change. It says, from time to time, MTA's state and federal grant draws are delayed, creating short-term cash flow challenges. Reserves may be used without board approval to address any unforeseen grant funding shortfalls or timing issues that are less than or equal to 180 days. So in that circumstance, if we were to go beyond that, we would be coming to the board to ask permission to use the funds. So this would essentially help us transition from what has been our longtime use of the line of credit to this zero cost tool that would help us do the same thing. So we would save an estimated $16,000 a year in fees that we currently pay, even if we don't use that line of credit. So a good savings to the agency, something we wanted to add in here to make sure we had the flexibility needed to weather state and federal timing issues that we experience every year. So with that, item number MA 25015, staff recommends that the board approve the attached draft reserve fund policy. Any questions?
Go ahead. Oh, I had a question about the language at the top of, it's on my page 25 and 28. So it says reserves may be used without our approval to address any unforeseen grant funding shortfalls or timing issues that are less than or equal to 180 days. And the sentence before talks about grant draws could be delayed. Is a grant funding shortfall the same thing as a timing issue, or is that intended to encompass something different?
No, it's intended to only relate to state and federal grant funding timing issues.
It'd be a timing issue, Catherine. Occasionally what's happened. So, for instance, with some of our larger TDOT Improve Act capital grants, TDOT tends to reimburse on kind of a longer 60 to 90 day cycle where we're on net 30 or less with vendors. So that could be an issue in a large cash flow. And then occasionally, federal's usually pretty quick as long as there's an appropriation and apportionment and a grant in place. But every now and then, as you've followed over the years, if there's issues with getting a federal budget passed, we've seen delays in getting our federal funding approved. So this would be for funds that have been allocated, but not yet, we don't have the cash draws yet.
And I think the question you're asking is, do we mean unforeseen grant funding shortfalls or grant timing issues? And yes, we do. So we can add that word there.
Shortfall sounds to me, and I am not an accountant. I preface this. Shortfall sounds to me like the grant was awarded for $1 million and we only got $750,000. Not a timing issue. And so that's what I was trying to understand. Is it the grant ended up?
We can clean up the language a little bit. The intent is it's a timing issue, not a,
Yeah.
it's a timing, not a structural.
Okay.
Strike shortfalls or, and that would function the way that we intended.
That would be great.
I think
I
this
just
language
wanna-
was what, just so you know, this language is what we used every year in our line of credit approval, which we will not be bringing to you more than likely next month, which is exciting. But that's where the language came from. So if we strike shortfalls or, would that?
I just want to, I think for the board purposes, I think we are comfortable with moving money in and out of the reserve account for timing issues. And I think it's a transfer of a different quality if you're trying to make up permanently something that didn't hit the mark we thought it was going to hit. Right. And so that's my
Very
That's what I
good
wanna
point. And in
address.
fact, the reserve fund the policy reads that way, where it's only for short-term issues and cannot be for long-term issues. So I think that's a good change to make.
Yeah, so I think if we can strike funding shortfalls or, so that it just reads, reserves may be used without board approval to address any unforeseen timing issues that are less than or equal to 180 days.
So then if there is a shortfall by something we've not necessarily seen before, but maybe we see it in the future, if that should ever happen, where a grant was reduced and we didn't expect it to be reduced, for that, would we come back to the board to ask for approval, correct?
That's right.
That would be my
Okay, and that would be my thought too.
intent and
So-
preference.
And in
So
that
taking-
setting, I think the expectation would be we come back to you with a mitigation plan.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So I think it's still the word shortfall is still,
Yeah.
so taking that out works. Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
To add to that too, sounds like it's not defined in here that it's only for those state and federal grants. So I wonder if that wording also needs to be looked at in there too. Because then it makes it, as it relates to state and federal grants, but is it only for those instances that we're defining?
That's historically been our challenge. We've never historically had a cash flow challenge with our local funding, and the other sources are pretty nominal, relative to the size of the fund. So
Yeah.
that the state and federal would be the primary concern.
Looking back at our historic usage of the line of credit, that's why we picked 180 days, because that was really the max we ever had to access the line of credit. And anything over that, really, we should be coming to the board and asking about. So
Yes, thank you. Any further questions for Amanda or Steve? This is an action item, and we are voting on whether or not to approve this policy, yes? You called it a draft.
it is a draft, yes.
Got it. Okay, so let's see, Margaret, can you help me? Okay.
And with the amendment that the last sentence of section 3.0 deletes the words grant funding shortfalls or.
Okay. The Operations and Finance Committee makes a motion to approve MA-25-015 with the amendment to the last sentence of section 3.0, striking grant funding, funding shortfall or.
Yes, grant funding shortfalls or.
Can I
Those
ask,
4 words.
Yes, grant
Can
funding.
I ask too, because of the second sentence and it talks about any unforeseen grant funding timing issues that we're talking about, it doesn't sound like it still limits it only to state and federal.
The first sentence does. From time to time, MTA's state and
It's
federal
giving a
grant.
statement of what happens from time to time and not a definition that we're only using these funds
Okay.
for state and federal. So if we can amend that to, that it means only for state or federal grant timing issues.
So to address any unforeseen state and federal grant timing issues?
I think that's fine. Satisfy you? Yes, I think that takes care of it, yes.
Okay, let me try this again. The Operations and Finance Committee makes a motion to approve item number MA-25015 with the amended language at the end of section 3.0 of the policy to read, reserves may be used without board approval to address any unforeseen state or federal grant timing issues that are less than or equal to 180 days.
Very good.
Thank you.
So we have a motion. And do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion? I will say well done with everybody, and what a good team effort to make certain that the language reflected all of our views and really reflected what happens. I know Billy will be quite happy when things come her way that the language is clear for her. So, and Amanda. So thank you. Good job, Amanda.
Thank you.
I think this is amazing that we're doing this, but I'll talk about that later. But so any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, aye, aye. I think I hear Mary and I saying aye too someplace, don't you?
Ms. Vandergrift, thank you so much. I am so pumped that we are making so much forward progress on this, and you've been such a great help, so thank you so much. And it is time for me to give the time back over to Madam Chair Williams here. The Operations Finance Committee business is over.
Well done. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Mr. Thompson, you're up with New Initiatives and Community Engagement Committee.
All right, it's time for the NICE Committee. All right. Thank you, Madam Chair.
It's so nice to have you share this.
We will start off with amendment to fiscal year 2025 through 2020 to 2030 capital investment plan. Billy Higgins, you are up.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'll take that if you don't mind. All right. Since the passage of the Choose How You Move referendum in November, staff has been communicating with Metro Finance, Metro Planning, and the Mayor's Office, refining financial projections and planning transit project implementation. On March 18th, Metro Council approved the first appropriation of Choose How You Move funding to MTA for several operating and capital initiatives in FY 2025. Staff has updated the current capital plan to include this initial appropriation. We forecasted revenues and we've projected project needs through 2030. And we've also added a recently awarded funding from the state of Tennessee for Improve Act transit investment grants. The yellow bolded cells in the proposed plan indicate where the numbers have changed and the funding sources and projects that have changed. With this amendment, funding has increased from $544 million to $1.5 billion. I got goosebumps on that one. I hadn't tried to say that out loud. Big number. The total project investments have increased from $435 million to $1.3 billion. I'm going to talk through the smaller numbers first. In January, TDOT gave us notice that they had awarded 5 of our projects capital money. Those projects are the MTA Myatt training facility renovation, where we will design, reconstruct the existing facility at Myatt to provide an expanded training center for a mechanics apprentice program and the driver training. The Elizabeth Duff Transit Center will be, the amenities on the upper floor will be improved. We've been waiting for this for quite a few years, and there was a funding gap when the design was initially done. We didn't account for the parking garage that sits adjacent underneath the property. Vertical lifts for the facilities. This is not just our elevators. It's storage improvements so we can maximize space at all 3 facilities and assist our facility staff in maintaining the facilities that we have. And then Upper Dickerson Transit Center was awarded $6.25 million to advance that project. The initial Choose How You Move projects. New projects include transit security upgrades, a new bus operations and maintenance facility, Upper Dickerson Transit Center, and the fleet expansion needed for service level expansion. Additional funding for the transit stop and shelter improvements program, the Antioch Transit Center, the Murfreesboro High Capacity Transit Corridor, and Donaldson Transit Center are also involved. Please note, Donaldson Transit Center is not in the capital plan. It will be an RTA project because it is an RTA property, but it is in Davidson County, and MTA and RTA will work together to ensure the design of the facilities improves bus service connections and needs for the community. The other major enhancement of the Choose How You Move funds is it will reduce our federal dependency on our federal dependency on our operating. Every year we move money from the capital plan, or that's federal capital dollars, and we use it for operating assistance. It covers a portion of our preventive maintenance and our ADA capitalization. That funding will increase that frees up $24.7 million of federal funds that we can now apply to our state of good repair projects to keep our older assets maintained to a satisfactory level or above. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Billy. Any questions for Billy?
Oh, you guys are quiet. That's a lot of money. No questions.
Obviously, they trust you more than Amanda. You're still earning your stripes, Amanda.
We trust you all. Steve does not speak for us in that way.
I will say it's been a minute since our last meeting because I know we skipped, and the last meeting we had focused on security, and so I'm delighted to see the funding for the security upgrades in this, and that we are following through on a lot of the really wonderful things we discussed at the last meeting we had. So, and I trust you and Amanda equally. For the record, Steve.
If there are no more questions, staff requests that the board formally adopt the amendment of the attached 2025 to 2030 MTA capital investment plan and approve board action item MA 25016.
All right, Madam Chair. So I request a motion for approval of MA 25016 for amendment to the fiscal year 2025-2030 MTA capital investment plan.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion, second. Any further discussion? Well done, and thank you very much. So many new exciting things coming aboard, so thank you.
Thank you.
And we do trust you to manage all those things coming along. With that, any other comments?
Do we have to vote?
I haven't yet. I didn't call for it yet. I'm calling.
Sorry.
I know. It happens to the best of us. I think we've been doing a lot of bird walking today, but
I need
it's okay.
I need a list of all of the things that are happening so that I can keep it straight. I feel like there's so much going on at this point.
It is, but it's exciting and it's historic and it's very cool. With that being said, I'll call for the vote before I forget to do that. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. There you go, Ms. Higgins. Thank you very much.
All right. Next up on the agenda is We Go Link program update from Madeline Roberson, transit planner analysis.
Yes, I do. Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you for letting me share a little bit about our We Go Link program, which has seen some exciting growth. So I'm excited to share that with you all. And because you've had so much information given to you today, I'll give you a brief overview of how the We Go Link program works as a refresher. So the We Go Link program is our mobility on demand program for first and last mile connections, allowing passengers who live outside of areas where we provide fixed route service the ability to connect to a nearby bus stop and utilize our transit system as part of their journey. We partner with Uber to make this happen, and passengers download a voucher through the Uber app and only pay $2 for the Uber ride, with WeGo covering the rest of the trip cost up to $10. And just a background on our expansion of this program so far. So the zones that are in gray here are the zones that we kind of started the program with. In Goodlettsville, Cockrell Bend, Sylvan Park, Bellevue, Hermitage, South Nashville, and Antioch. In fall of 2023, you'll see the zones highlighted in red. We added the Rosebank Zone, Old Hickory, Skyline, Brick Church Zone, and Burton Hills. In spring of 2024, following the opening of the North Nashville Transit Center, we added expansion to the Bordeaux area. And then most recently, in July of last year, We piloted an expansion in the Bell Road area and Opry Mills area, and the tiny little purple dot in the center, Adventure Science Center. And then upcoming, we're going to be adding the Elm Hill Pike zone and the Broadmoor zones, adding service expansion to the Donaldson and East Nashville areas. Some 2024 highlights, as last year was our best year for the program so far, and I'm breaking up the first 6 months of last year and the last 6 months of last year because there's a pretty big difference in the two. So nearly all of the zones have seen significant trip increases in the last half of 2024 compared to the first half. Most notably, the trips in the Hermitage and Bellevue zones grew 763% and 907% respectively. We're seeing immense growth there. Additionally, our most popular zone, the Antioch zone, holds its position as the highest demand zone, followed by Bellevue and then South Nashville. And then also 36% of all the trips of last year took place in just the Antioch zone. In our new pilot zones that we adopted last July, there have been just over 600 trips from when they were adopted to through when this data set covers, which is through March 31st of this year. And all zones are expected to see continued growth. Additionally, throughout 2024, our number of trips have doubled every single quarter, which is very exciting to see. And the total trip number for Q4 of last year was more than the entire trip amount totals in 2023. So that is very awesome to see. Also, 40% of our total trips for the WeGo Link program in its entirety since it was adopted in 2021 happened in just the last 6 months of 2024. So we think this is due to people becoming aware of the program, more zones being adopted, and just general accessibility because of this program. And hopefully people are telling their friends about it. So 2024 was by far our biggest year of the program, like I have said, and so far we have data through March 31st that shows that we are on track to double the number of trips that were taken last year, which is very exciting. Here's just an overview of all of the zones and their popularity in trip numbers. So Antioch we've had for a long time, which makes sense. It's at the top, but it also remains our most popular zone. And then finishing out with Sylvan Park is our least popular zone. The benefits of this program are so vast to us. One main one is that it's a huge cost savings to WeGo as opposed to running fixed route services in these areas. As you can see, the total program cost to WeGo since 2021 is under $90,000, and compared to what it would cost to run fixed route service in these areas is just wild. And this also still allows us to provide coverage and access to areas that need it, again, without having to provide full-on fixed route service. Also, we have a little graph on the side here that shows you the percentage of the fare that's covered by WeGo. So we're looking at about a 75-25 split of WeGo taking on the share of the cost versus the passengers, which is about what we would expect. So we're looking at, on average, the trips are costing around $8, with WeGo covering $6 of it, and the passenger only having to pay $2, which notably is the same price they would pay for a bus fare. So we're excited to offer the service to everyone and excited to see its growth. And it's also very useful to us in planning out future routes because we can see where people are taking their trips. And it helps us to analyze the trip patterns, which is also really, really useful with all of the Choose How You Move expansions happening. So nothing for you to vote on, just some great information about this program and just kind of next steps for the program. We're going to keep monitoring, keep looking at the trips, keep utilizing all of this great data. There's also growing desire to make this program countywide to bring access to all of Davidson County. And of course, we're going to keep telling people that it exists. And our outreach engagement is going to keep growing with this program. Any questions that I can answer for you?
Thank you, Madeline, for that presentation. Any questions?
I have just one, and the next time you report on this program, because I think it's such a great program, I would be interested in knowing if we can, not just the number of trips, but the number of unique customers. Like,
yeah,
I'd be really interested in knowing that number as well.
Yeah.
Otherwise, congratulations. I think this is a great success, and I really love the program.
Yeah, great presentation, Madeline. Really love to see these numbers. I remember when we voted to pilot the program in Antioch in 2021. So I am absolutely thrilled to see its success and just loving the stark increase in ridership and utilization of this service. It's such a great service to those folks who live in the geofenced areas. I like the idea of the potential of moving it to the countywide. I think it obviously has merit and people are using it. So that's just incredible. And I had that same question about how many of those riders are unique riders or who's reusing it over,
Yeah, we can definitely pull that data for next time. Awesome.
I did have one question. Do we track time of day for WeGoLink ridership?
We do. Yep. We have the time, we have the date, we have the coordinates of where they're coming from, where they're going to. A lot of data.
What a great way to collect all that data.
Yep.
That would be nice to add in the next time we do a presentation about it.
Yeah.
Just to see when the spike occurs.
Yeah.
I think you're being invited back, Madeline.
It looks like it. All right. I'll take you guys up on it.
Do we also have data as to whether or not they get on our fixed routes regularly?
That's a great question. I can look into that for you.
Was this your first time at the podium?
It is.
Well done.
Well
Good job. Welcome to the podium.
Thank you.
Theoretically, you wouldn't have to use fixed route, but because one of either the start or end point is a particular bus stop, chances are that the overwhelming majority are making that transfer in one direction or another.
Yeah, the idea is that they use this as part of their journey. So the middle of the trip is ideally they're using our fixed route service.
Now, in theory, for instance, in the Antioch zone, one of the connecting points is at our main stop at Southeast Community Center. So theoretically, you could be going to the library and take WeGoLink, but for the most part, you're connecting at a bus stop.
Well, thank you, Madeline. Appreciate the presentation.
Thank you.
All right. We have one more from the NICE committee, and that is the summer 2025 service changes and Title VI analysis from Felix.
Good afternoon. Do not dismay. You get to vote for the WeGoLink zones during my item. So I know she said that you wouldn't vote on hers, but here you get to vote for those. So, good afternoon. I'm going to be presenting the proposed service changes for the summer 2025. You may be used to us presenting spring and fall changes. We changed that for last year, so we started doing now changes in January and July, which gives us a better sense because by then we know the budget that we will be working on, and it makes it easier to plan other than before we had to be like 3 months in before we made the changes. So you see the Choose How You Move slide because these changes mark the beginning of changes that are going to be supported by the Choose How You Move revenues. So that's an exciting time. You know that Choose How You Move identifies a lot of service improvements and capital improvements over the 15 years. But a lot of those improvements will have to take a little bit of time because they're dependent on the ability to have the workforce, operators, mechanics, but also the equipment like the fleet. So what we're proposing now are changes that we can implement with the existing resources. This is just a summary slide just showing you the different things that we're going to be implementing in July. We have a couple of minor modifications to a few routes. We're going to have expansion of the Access on Demand service, which is a very popular service. Improved frequency for some of the major routes. This is going to be mostly on weekends and evenings. And then the expansion of WeGoLink to 2 new zones. I'll start by talking about the improvements proposed to Route 6, which are midday weekday improvements. This route currently operates during the day about hourly service. So for a big corridor like Lebanon Pike, it's a problem. I know Peter O'Connor has been looking forward to some improvements on this route. So the proposed improvement is for between 8:30 and 3 p.m. for the trips to operate every 30 minutes instead of hourly. And there will be some minor adjustments, of course, related to these. In terms of weekday evenings, we are proposing improvements for Route 55 and 56. These are high ridership routes. They operate 15-minute service throughout the day, but we're proposing to expand that to later in the evening. So basically, it'll be operating 50 minutes for the majority of the day, every 15 minutes, both of those routes. In terms of the weekend frequency improvements, again, routes 23, 50, 55, and 56 are high ridership routes and frequent routes. The goal here is to improve that to every 50 minutes during the day, during the weekends as well. And then also for the 56 and the 55 and the 56, 50 minutes during the evenings as well, during the weekends. And then some minor route adjustments. As I mentioned, Route 19 Herman, we are moving the end of the line closer to Charlotte Avenue, which will provide better opportunity to transfer to Route 50 Charlotte. In the case of the 77 Thompson Wedgwood, this is a crosstown route that we operate. A few years back, we started going into this shopping center to provide service to the Kroger Training Center. Since then, the training center has closed, and one of the tenants we had an issue with, and they asked the management to remove the stop. So the management unfortunately asked us to remove the stop. This is a private property. So we moved this pair of stops to East Thompson Lane, and we are working with NDOT currently for installing a crosswalk and pedestrian signals at the signalized intersection that it's on their main driveway. We also have a couple of route adjustments. I believe back in February, Katie was talking about the schools, and we mentioned accessibility to a couple of those schools. One of them is Magavoc High School on Magavoc Pike, and we're proposing to provide service on Magavoc Pike between Lebanon Pike and the high school twice a day to coincide with the beginning of classes and dismissal times. We have a route proposed and Choose How You Move that will be operating here, but it's going to be a few years out. So this will be, filling that gap in the meantime. The same is the case for Route 52 on Nolensville Pike, deviating on Antioch Pike between Nolensville and Glencliff High School. Same thing, beginning of classes and dismissal times. And then Access on Demand, as I mentioned, this is a very popular service. You don't have to wait the 24 hours to schedule your access trip. But currently the service only operates during the weekdays. So this is going to be expanding the service to weekends and holidays. So I know this will be a very welcome improvement for this community. And then Madeline spoke about 2 new WeGoLink zones. One of them is going to be on the Elm Hill Pike. This is kind of nested between Elm Hill and Lebanon Pike. It covers a section of Donaldson as well. We do not have any service on Donaldson Pike between there and, between the interstate and Lebanon Pike. So there will be 2 connection points. One is to the Route 18, which is the route that serves the airport, as well as Route 6 and Wigo Star at the Donaldson Station. We also got a request from the Tennessee Department of Labor and Workforce Development. There's a site that they have nearby as well. It's also a Nashville State Community College campus, so this will cover those facilities as well. And the second zone is Maplewood. It's nested there in East Nashville between Dickerson and Gallatin Pike. There is a good chunk of service that, or area that we not have service, and it's kind of long to walk to any of our adjacent routes. This will provide connection to 6 different routes, and you can see the transfer points there. So it'll be another opportunity to increase the access on these areas. We had a public comment period between March 12 and April 3rd. We had 3 public meetings during that time, 2 virtual and 1 in person at the Elizabeth Dove Transit Center. The public was able to provide comments either via email, phone, regular mail at the meetings, or also on our social media platforms. We also had the PowerPoint with the changes available on the website, both in English and Spanish. And we received about 48 comments during this process. Most of them were welcoming some of the changes, but also we always get some others about additional services or some of the issues that they may be having. So we always keep a record of those as we continue to plan for the future. As with any changes, we also always do equity analysis just to make sure that the changes are not disproportionately impacting low-income or minority populations. The results from these analyses indicated that there will be about a 7% more trips available for both low-income and the minority populations, this is great. As well as with the Wigo Link zones, the majority of the people in those zones that we looked at are minority and low-income, so they will be benefiting from additional access. And as we always say, we're always trying to improve this. Service expansion improvement do not only benefit the people just where the improvements are happening, but also other people in other places that are trying to access services and resources in those areas. So this is the end of my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions. But the request from staff is for the board to approve the service changes recommendations to take effect on May 31st. That will be for the Wigo Access on Demand and for the Wigo Link zones, and then for the fixed route changes to take effect on July 6, 2025.
Thank you, Felix. Appreciate that. Any questions?
I just wanted to call out 2 of the things. I love the expansion of the access on demand service to weekends. I think that's fantastic, and I think that is a great service to a population that I think really will be grateful for that. And I also love there were several routes that we were increasing the frequency, and I think that's a fantastic strategy. I think the more convenient we can make it for our customers, the better, and so I really did like that aspect of it. So thank you.
I am so thrilled that you're connecting to 2 high schools, McGavick and Glencliff. Bravo, yeah.
And I appreciate the Route 6. That's out my way, so thank you for that. and I'm sure the guests in the room do appreciate that also, so thank you for that. Any more questions for Felix? All right. That being said, I'll make a motion for MA 25017, summer 2025, service changes and analysis.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion, there's a second. Is there any further discussion? Well done, Felix. With that, I will call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oh, so much going on. I'm so excited.
This concludes the report from the NICE committee. Turning it back over to you, Madam Chair.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Thompson. What a great report. So much in here. So thank you. Mr. Bland, CEO report.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good afternoon, members. First of all, a couple personal notes. I would like to, on behalf of staff, join the board in acknowledging the service of Janet Miller. She's been a tremendous board member, but to me personally, she's been a great mentor and resource on the Nashville community. Janet was my first new board member, the first member who joined after I joined, and along with we were talking at lunch about some of our stalwarts like Louis Levine, Marion Ott, Jeff Yarbrough, who had been on the board, who were really tremendous resources for me as I learned the community, and certainly Janet falls into that category. Second of all, Madeline, welcome to the fray in your first foray. Little known trivia fact about WeGoLink and Madeline. Long before her joining our staff as a volunteer, she was one of the original testers of WeGoLink back in 2021. So not only does she talk the talk, she walks the walk. So if anybody knows about this program, it's Madeline. So appreciate her contributions. Wanted to report the court challenges to Mayor O'Connell's Choose How You Move program continue to work their way through, right, Margaret? Through the appeals process. The state appeals court heard the case on March 6th. They rendered their decision the past 2 weeks. They upheld the overwhelming majority of Choose How You Move program, invalidating only about less than 1% of the program value as it relates to the development of affordable housing and park facilities. Plaintiffs can still appeal to the state Supreme Court, but as you've heard in previous project reports, collections have begun. Money is coming into the fund, and we are initiating various service and capital project improvements on that end. Toward that end, and you kind of heard reported in the earlier staff reports, Metropolitan Council approved a supplemental appropriation of the funds that began collection in February through the end of the current fiscal year to apply to our 2024-2025 fiscal year. For the MTA, that appropriation totaled $57.28 million. So pretty close to some of our, I mean, we never got that much money annually when we started, Gail, right? The largest single item was the item that Amanda reported on. That's our starting up our operating reserve fund of just under $36.5 million. But additionally, they assigned $6 million to our operating budget for the remainder of the fiscal year to cover our security coverage expansion and service expansion related expenses, including stepping up our recruitment and training programs in anticipation of future service growth. Just over $14.8 million was appropriated in capital funding to cover fleet acquisition for service expansion, which I was relieved about since you already approved the bus purchase. We will now have money to pay for it. I'm sure you're all relieved about that too. We will not have to dip into the reserve fund for that, Catherine. So moving forward on that. And then notably also our security upgrades and start of planning and development activities on two major capital projects for us ultimately, one being the Sobro Transit Center, so a second transit hub in downtown Nashville, as well as a new bus operations and maintenance facility, which we'll ultimately need as Carl reports on an even bigger fleet in the future. Also related to Choose How You Move, you've probably seen the news that Mayor O'Connell's appointed Sabrina Sussman as the Chief Program Officer for Choose How You Move. Sabrina comes with a tremendous amount of experience, most recently with the USDOT, where she was Chief of Staff to Deputy Secretary Polly Trottenberg, so immediately under Secretary Buttigieg. She's held numerous leadership positions in policy and communications in a variety of both private and public sector agencies. So we're looking forward to her joining the team probably in early July or so. So she's still in the process of relocating to Nashville. Mayor O'Connell scheduled to deliver his State of Metro address next week. He'll submit his proposed FY 25-26 operating budget to the Metropolitan Council for their consideration shortly thereafter. Our total operating budget, which was sort of a little bit of flux with the supplemental appropriation and what went back and forth, our total operating budget request, again, I have to look at this, kind of like Billy sort of stumbling over the $1 billion number. I had to look at this twice, confirm it 3 times with Amanda. Our total request to the city for this upcoming fiscal year is about $126.5 million to support both our ongoing baseline services as well as our service expansion. Our council budget hearing is scheduled for Thursday, May 15th at 4:30 p.m. in council chambers. And any member who would like to attend, we would certainly welcome your attendance, and we can get you more information on that if you're interested. Topic of discussion in that budget conversation is how the flow of funds to the transit policing unit within MNPD will occur. You met Captain Williams earlier. Ultimately, he and the folks that he works with will need to get paid somehow. So Amanda's working with Metro Finance and Metro Nashville Police for us to kind of figure out how all of that works. We do expect a period of transition. So he will be overseeing our secondary employment officers in the meantime while we transition over to that full transit policing unit over a period of time. I couldn't figure out why I felt like I wasn't in the office much this last couple months. So I did quite a few presentations just to give you a sampling. I did a presentation to the Partnership for Miami, one for the Nashville chapter, the Women's Transportation Seminar. I was with Jessica on a couple of panels, one at Leadership Nashville, one at the Tennessee Smart Mobility Expo. Went and spoke to Jessica's board at the Transit Alliance in Middle Tennessee. And then the Connect Middle Tennessee. I was with you a lot this month, so appreciate Jessica's support and all of that. In March, I want to give a shout out to particularly Gabe Burgess of our operations staff and Kia Lewis of our engineering group. Back in March, Nashville hosted a large group of U.S. congressional staff from all over the country for a training exercise. Shouldn't be a surprise. I'd never heard of it before, but the Congress has a professional development arm for their staff people, and one of the things they do is do conferences every now and then, and they were in Nashville during March. And as part of that conference, we took a group of about 35 staff on a tour of North Nashville, the neighborhood, the Dr. Ernest Rip Patton Jr. North Nashville Transit Center, and the East Bank. Gabe, as usual, did a tremendous job in setting up the logistics. Kia Lewis, Gabe is the mayor of Riverfront Station. Kia is the mayor of the Dr. Ernest Rip Patton Jr. North Nashville Transit Center, and she did an amazing job. And I had several of the folks, and these are people like district directors for congressmen, legislative directors for congressmen, come up to me afterwards and said, we wish our local transit system was doing the stuff that you were doing. So that was pretty cool. Speaking of Washington and Congress, I did participate and travel with, I'm president of our State Transit Association this year, so we went to Washington. Got to meet with Senator Hagerty, Senator Blackburn, and several of the congressional folks from around the state, including Congressman Rose, who continues to be a really strong advocate of ours and, pursuing a lot of projects for us. One of the early deployment projects, it's one of the few we didn't talk about really today, How to Choose How You Move, is a fare subsidy program for low-income individuals. Internally and with members of Metro Finance staff and the mayor's office, we've been working on some of the logistical structure associated with that. In the next few weeks, we'll be engaging with some of the social service agencies in Metro to talk about eligibility determination and how we actually get people into that program. And then after that, we'll be engaging with individuals and advocacy organizations. Ultimately, you'll get a briefing on what the outline of that program looks like, and then ultimately, we'll be asking you to adopt that program, but we fully expect that to be available to individuals who truly need it by the end of the calendar year. I'm going to save something for next month. We'll have a couple presentations next month, and one of them will be earlier this month, our bus operator and maintenance rodeo teams competed in the International Bus Rodeo in Austin, Texas. In May, we're inviting them in to be recognized by the board, so I am not going to tell you what happened. Just to say we do not invite losers to these meetings for recognition. Both teams did extremely well. So come back in May and find out just how well they did. On the RTA side, we continue to work with developers on the Donaldson Station upgrade project this month. Just last week, the RTA board awarded the design contracts associated with the transit improvements to the property. That includes development of 6 bus bays, the signalized intersection with Donaldson Pike, relocation of the access drive, development of quiet zones at 2 of the at-grade crossings. So, Ron, that's in your neighborhood. Eventually, you won't be hearing that train whistle quite so much. Next action we anticipate is the acquisition of a small piece of property we need from the Nashville and Eastern Rail Authority to complete that project. We're just waiting for the appraisals to come back. Have to give credit. I see Nick Pachenka in the audience, Andy Burke, several others who went through a gargantuan task. So we were up for the recompeting of our regional commuter bus contracts. That contract's been held by Gray Line of Tennessee for quite a few years. Gray Line did propose again. We had another provider, Anchor Transportation, submitted a proposal, and the RTA board awarded the new contract to Anchor to take over operation in July. Gray Line's provided tremendous service for a number of years. They remain a good partner of ours at Riverfront Station, but we're looking forward to the transition over to Gray Line. We continue to work slowly but surely, emphasis on surely, right, Vince? Surely. On getting a park and ride facility in the city of Murfreesboro. We got approval from the state. I should say the church we're buying the property from got approval from the state for the disposition of that property. It's a dissolving church, and that apparently is a big deal to try to get there. I see the attorneys in the room nodding their heads vocally. That's a process. It takes a while. Our engineering staff is currently obtaining proposals for building demolition and site preparation, and that facility is going to be immediately next to the city of Murfreesboro's new transit center, transit operations facility that should be getting complete in the next month or so. So it should be a very convenient location. You'll be able to take the bus from Nashville to Murfreesboro, connect to the Murfreesboro transit system, and get all over the city of Murfreesboro. Finally, with respect to the RTA, we're in the process of developing the RTA 25-26 operating budget. Amanda is getting trial by fire in how our corridor committees work and how we try to get money from about 29 different jurisdictions. So all those hundreds of millions of dollars we've been talking about all meeting, in the corridor committees we talk about like thousands of dollars. So we're in that process. Finally, I do want to introduce all these projects, all the stuff Billy talked about, all the stuff Amanda talked about, all the stuff Debbie reports on. Somebody has to deliver those. So I'd like to introduce and close. I always like to close with good news. One of our newest staff members, Osmond Baker. Osmond, are you in the room? I see you back there. Just stand up. Be recognized. So Osmond recently joined our team under Lydia's direction in our engineering construction group as a project manager. So he'll be managing some of our capital projects. Osmond's a graduate of TSU with a degree in civil and environmental engineering. He's worked for both private sector firms and the public sector. He worked with the Illinois Department of Transportation, as a matter of fact, as an engineer, and has experience on transit projects with both in his IDOT role with both the Chicago Transit Authority and Metro, the commuter rail line out there, and projects in Chicago. So as we ramp up our capital investment activity, Osmond will be a crucial member of the team to deliver those projects on time, on budget, on scope, right? And safely, and give people like Denise and Patrick and Carl even more stuff to fix in the future. So with that, Madam Chair, unless there are any questions, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Steve. Anyone have any questions for Steve? So I know I said I did my chair's report when we celebrated Janet, but after today's meeting, I'm going to add just a little more to this. Like, I think everybody should just go, whew, and take a deep breath. Whew, and take a deep breath. Whew. I mean, we did some historic things today. I've been on this board just a little bit. And a little bit.
You're going to get 2 bus
A little
stop
bit.
signs.
I'm gonna get 2 bus stops, and I ain't gonna have to carry my sign because they just gonna know, right? But I'm so honored to sit here because I think that today's agenda sort of crossed every aspect of our organization, our agency. And we're doing so many incredible things, and we would not be here without the work that all of you all have put in. Even our public comments have helped to make us better, and we appreciate that so much. And the ride has been fun, up and down sometimes, but at the end of the day, it smoothed itself out and landed well. And we're ready to take off again. I'm ready to hang with y'all as you all take off again and fly and soar. But I could not be more proud of this board. I cannot be more proud of Margaret, how you support us and make certain we get through it. And Steve, and your leadership, and everybody in this room. And we get to welcome the things that we worked hard for to make certain that we could have. Captain Williams, it's an honor to have you here and to know how much we have worked to make certain that this transit agency is the safest and most welcoming transit system in America. So, got a lot of work to do, not really, but we're glad that you're here. But that's part of how we welcome everything. And I want to thank the Nashville voters, because I think Choose How You Move is so transformational for our city, and is so transformational for our community. But I also want to thank Mayor O'Connell for having that vision and for being a leader to get us to this point. I mean, the mere fact that we didn't got to go to the bank and sort of beg, like, oh, we running out of little money, and take that money down. I remember the first time we did this, Ed was so scared. He was shaking up there at the podium, like, I want to get this bank loan. And we were like, for what? Like, why don't you got no money? But here we are in this, and Choose How You Move allowed us to do this. But what else allowed us to do is courageous leadership and brilliant work. And I thank you all for what you do, what you've done, and what you're going to do in anticipation. And I want to give a shout out to our friends who keep us on live all the time. And you take good care of us, and we appreciate it very much. And keep our mics on and turn them off when they need to go off. Speaking of that, thank you all. And with that, we are adjourned.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.